Good evening, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us for another sisterly chat. I am your host, Ashley Sauls, and today I have my good friend, LaShaunda Hoffman, who is phenomenal and fabulous. And so I'm so excited to have this conversation with her. As you guys already know, as you're here, make sure you're sharing with a friend because tonight's conversation is yet another conversation that we need to hear and we need to talk more about as sisters. So, LaShaunda, I want to welcome you and thank you for just who you are. Guys, LaShaunda is an amazing friend to have, for real, for real. And so I'm just so glad to be having this conversation with her. So welcome, LaShaunda, and I'm just excited. And I want everyone who doesn't have the pleasure of knowing you, tell us a little bit about who you are, and if they were to meet you as a sister friend, who you are in person.
That's a deep question. Well, hello, everyone. I am LaShaunda Hoffman. I am the creator of Social Butterflies, as I say. I came online 20 plus years ago because I love books and I wanted to get online and talk to authors and readers about books. And in that process, I created a magazine called Shades of Romance Magazine. We celebrate 19 years online and we have been promoting books for a long time, and that's how I got online. I call that my fantasy life. In real life, I work for the government. I'm the mother of three wonderful children and happily married to my own hero. And a sister friend. I think as I grow older, I learn how to be a better friend. Of all, I like having friends, but I'm one of those people who don't need to have lots and lots of friends. If I got one, I'm happy and fabulous about that. And so I'm one of those friends who is there for you through thick and thin. I'm gonna hold your hand when you're crying. I'm gonna cheer you on when you're winning. I'm gonna push you when you say you can't. That's the type of friend that I am, and I always hope that I get that type of friendship back. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, but I call myself a kindred spirit, and so I look for other kindred spirits out there.
I love
So
it.
that's
That's good. And what I wanted everyone to know is that LaShaunda, I have to give you celebration because I was a part of her social butterfly movement. And one of the things that I did not want to do was video. And LaShaunda was like, what is that thing that makes you afraid? And you know that you need to be doing it, but you're not. And video was the thing. And LaShaunda will encourage you. And, I had that goal and I don't think I really completed it during my butterfly time, but she didn't give up on me. She, continued to push me and to help me to soar. And that's what you need in a friendship. Because, sometimes you have those friends who they know what's in you, but they have to give you time to grow. And so LaShaunda will do that. She's not like trying to push you out the nest and you're not ready to really soar that way. She gives you that space to grow. And so I wanted to thank you, LaShaunda, for being someone who is truly a sister friend and who knows how to help people to go further and go beyond what they think or feel that they can do.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. When I started pushing people to do videos because I was scared to death to do video. My business coach told me to do a video and I ran. I ran fast. I was, that's not happening. I'm a behind the scenes person. I do podcasts of my voice. It took me years to get used to my own voice, so I wasn't getting in front of the camera. And I wasn't one of those people who put on. I got makeup on today. I just want to look fabulous. But most of the time, I'm a lip gloss girl, and that was it. And everybody I saw in video was put together perfect, and I was like, that is not me. I am not perfect. I am cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, so I can't do that. But I did it, and I fell in love with it. And of course, whenever I fall in love with something, I'm trying to bring other people with me because I want them to be in love too, And so I knew you'd be great for video because you had the best video audio voice. So I was like, she just need to put a little push, And I'm glad you took it on because you just been soaring everywhere. I've just been amazed. Like I'm like, you've been doing this like you've been doing it for years. So good job.
Well, thank you. Well, guys, we're going to have a conversation that I know LaShaunda because LaShaunda is an encourager of encouragers. we need to have. And actually watching LaShaunda, she is a promotion strategist, she's a writer, but she also is very aware of what people need to talk about and might be afraid to talk about. And so I've gotten to see her journey just sharing about a topic of grief. And if we're honest about it, there's a lot of taboo about grief. And, some people talk about it, some people don't. Some of us are very suspicious about talking about it. Like, if we mention anything about it, as I was thinking about it, kind of like Beetlejuice. If you say Beetlejuice 3 times, we're afraid that it's going to show up. Same thing with grief. We're afraid if we say it over and over, it's going to show up in our lives and something bad is going to happen instead of knowing how to face it in a healthy way. And although we're not coming to you guys as counselors or therapists, we're coming as sister friends who have gone through, and hopefully will encourage you to be able to share, because it's something that we need to talk about. So one of the first questions I wanted to ask you, LaShaunda, is, first of all, what inspired you to really talk about grief?
My mother died in 2011, and people are gonna die. That's just part of the plan, but you're just never ready for it. I don't care how long they've been sick or whatever. And I kind of hoped that my mom's gonna pull through. She went into a coma, and they put her on the ventilator and everything. And I was just praying she's gonna make it through. But God decided He wanted to take her home, and we had to deal with that. And it was hard. It was very hard, and I am a researcher, so when I can't understand stuff, I go research it, And the thing I found on it was the 7 stages of grief, and I want to share that a bit because a lot of people don't know about the 7 stages. And the first stage is shock and denial. I'm gonna say this: there are 7 stages, but that doesn't mean you're gonna go through all 7 stages, or you're gonna go in order. And that's what I found out. So there's 7 stages. The first one is shock and denial. You in shock, you in denial. I just experienced that last Thursday. My father-in-law died, and we were in shock because he wasn't sick. He died in his sleep, and I kind of like in a little denial too, because you're like, what, really? No, So that was deep. And then, so the second one is pain and guilt. You feel a lot of pain, or you feel a lot of guilt because you didn't do what you thought you was going to do before the person died. The third is anger and bargaining. You're like, Lord, Jesus, any days around there, A 4 was depression, reflection, loneliness. And I'll talk a little bit about that because I didn't know I was depressed. I've never been depressed. I didn't know the stages of depressed. But once I started doing research on it, I spent a lot of time on the couch when my mom died. I say I was the walking dead. I went to work. I came home, I fed my kids, and I sat on the couch. And that was a form of depression. At the time, I didn't know it. But as I started doing research more about it, I was like, oh my God, I was depressed. I didn't even know that. I just know I was sad. That's how I said it was. I was sad. Number 5 is the upward turn, when you're feeling a little better, you're doing better with yourself, you're getting out there, you're more organized. And number 6 is reconstruction and working through. It's when you kind of like you're getting through that, but you start to get back in your regular life. I think that's what it is. And then number 7 is acceptance and hope. And that's the stage you really want to be in, And this stage here helped me when my sister died. My sister died in 2017? 2016. And it was unexpected. She had a massive heart attack and died. She's like 2 years older than me. So I was like, wow, but I had hope because I had went through those stages with my mom, and I knew that I could get through it. That's the thing that you don't know when you're going through grief, is that, am I going to make it to the next day? Am I going to make it to the weekend? Am I going to make it to next month? Because that's just so much pain you have never experienced. I always tell people that you don't deal with grief until you sit in the front pew. Mm-hmm. Most people sit in the back of the church when they go to a funeral. When it's your turn to sit in the front pew, that's when you really experience grief. You can have a friend die, you can have a cousin die, but when you sit in the front pew, that means that an immediate family member has died. Your brother, your sister, your father, your mother. And there is no pain like that because you've had that person all your life, and now they're not there anymore. And you have to deal with that. And people don't teach you how to deal with not having your mama or your daddy or your sister or your brother. They don't tell you how to do that. They don't talk about it. They just live, I guess. You just live. They don't really explain it. And I decided to talk about grief because if I felt like this, I knew somebody out there was feeling the same way, that somebody understood how I feel to lose your mother when you're not ready. I don't think you're ever ready, but I wasn't ready. I was 44. I wanted my mother for a couple of more years. I had things we were supposed to do together, and so I was a little angry about that. I was in that anger stage because I was like, God, really? My mother was in a lot of pain, so I had to focus on that she was in a lot of pain, so she wasn't going to be in pain anymore, but I still wonder, so I wanted to share, how I felt about that, things that you could think about, and that it's not wrong the way you feel. People tell you all the time to get over it, and how dare you? How dare you tell somebody to get over it? You can't get over grief. You take it day by day, and you pray, and you hold on to people, and you talk about it. One of my best advice that I didn't take, but I wish I had at the time, was to go to counseling, grief counseling. Get a therapist, go to a group if they have a group, and talk, because you have to get those feelings out of you. And I think what saved my life and me pushing forward was my relationship with God. I mean, I went into double time talking to him. He probably got tired of LaShaunda. But oh my goodness. And when they say, my favorite poem is Footprints. When they say Jesus carried you. When it's one footprint, that's because Jesus carrying. I was like, oh, I'm holding during that time. And then the second one was my sisters. My sisters was my therapist, because they understood. They knew my mama, they missed my mama, and we could talk about her and cry and laugh and didn't feel funny about it. Because sometimes you talk to people, they look at you all strange. Well, don't talk about her because she dead. Right. Really? But I've learned that when you talk about the person who's died, it makes you happy. It pushes out the pain, and you get that hope again. And so I wanted to share that, because I think that a lot of people lose hope when somebody dies, and especially if you're not, if you don't have faith. If you don't have faith, you really have a difficult time with that, because especially when I'm angry, you mad at God, and so when you don't have faith, it's harder for you, because you don't understand that they're in a better place, that they're safe, that, if they had faith too, but a lot of people don't have faith. And so I talk about it because I want them to know that, yes, you are in pain, but it's just for a little while, and it's going to slowly ease up. It took me almost 3 years to be able to talk about my mother without crying. And I was like, oh, that's good. But when my sister died, I had experienced all that. So I knew that there was hope on the other end, that yes, I'm going to cry my eyeballs out for a couple of months, maybe a year, but I'm going to be all right.
Yeah, that's good. And you said a lot of key things. One of the things you said is not being really afraid of your emotions. So when you felt angry, not trying to say, oh, I'm not angry, as we typically try to do it. Sometimes we try to cover it. Oh, I'm not angry. Oh, I'm not sad. I'm okay. But you experience those emotions, you allowed yourself to feel them, but then that helped you to be able to process through them. So that's one powerful thing I heard that you said. And another thing you said that was really key was the support, that you were around and surrounded yourself with people who could understand. And I think and this was just my experience, but maybe you've had the same, is that sometimes we feel that everyone should understand our grief or understand what we're going through. And so we can get frustrated that, this person who's supposed to be our friend, we go through something and it seems like they go ghost, like they're gone into hiding, but they don't quite understand. And so that's why it's key for us to have people who can really support and understand. And I was going to bring this up, but you actually brought it up already. You said, especially about people who are on the front pew, that they don't understand your pain yet. So I know you had people who, were your friends or maybe even family who they just didn't know how to deal with the grief. How did you avoid getting angry at them for not understanding the pain that you were feeling?
I had empathy for them, mainly because, like I said, I went to a lot of funerals. I was at a church, so I was an usher. So, you go to funerals for that. You do usher. I've been doing funerals, I guess, in high school, grade school. I was in the choir, so we had to go sing at the funeral, So I've experienced funerals all my life. I've served. I was at the repast serving food, and so I understand funerals all my life, but I did not understand the grief part of funeral because I never ever sat on the front pew. I've always was behind the family or a member of the family. I've never was, this is my family. And so when my mother died, and as you said, people get ghosts. I mean, people really get ghosts when somebody dies because they don't want to upset you. They don't want to talk to you. And I even had to explain to my sisters because they had buddies that they was expecting to see and they didn't show up. And they was mad. They didn't come, and oh, dare they didn't come. And I said, hold up. You can't get mad at somebody because they don't understand your grief. They don't understand that you don't want to party tonight. You don't want to go nowhere. You want to lay on your couch and you want to talk about your mama. Or you want to cry about your mama. You want to be mad because your mama not here. They don't understand it. They ready to move on. Girl, that was 2 months ago. I'm gonna need you to come on so we can kick it. And you like, I don't want to kick it. But you can't get mad because they don't understand that. And most people who don't understand it is because they haven't sat in the front pew. And I tell people that all the time. If they haven't sat in the front pew, they don't have a clue. I didn't have a clue. I thought I knew grief. I thought I did a lot of stuff for people when it was time. I said stupid stuff to people that had no business saying to them. Girl, you gonna be all right. God don't give you. No. When you're like, I ain't gonna be all right. Shut up. That's how you feel it. You're like, one more old person. Cause my sister, when my mother died, she wore this big old hat to the memorial because she thought that would push people away. No, people wouldn't move, do that with the hat. And when we laugh about this years later, because people were literally raising the head, baby, I'm sorry, and kissing her on the cheek. And she was like, I wore the hat so people wouldn't talk to me. And she said, I think it drew more people to me. And I'm like, because people don't see that was her sign of stop, stay away. And they didn't see that. They saw it as, oh, let me come give you comfort, and you have to follow people's body languages when it comes to grief. Some people love to be hugged. Some people are like, don't touch me. And you have to, it's things that you have to pay attention to. Are you gonna be all right? That's not one of them. At that time, you don't feel like you're gonna be all right. You feel like somebody just stuck something in your heart and pulled it out. And so I've learned even in the time that my mom afterwards, I've learned the stuff that some people don't like you to say to them. And you have to be, so that's why people get ghosted. Because they don't know what to say to you. They don't want to be the person that sets you off, and then they don't want to lose your friendship because they said something wrong. So instead of coming close, they back off. And so you can't get mad about that. You let them back off, and you push forward. And then when you're ready to talk to them, then you'll talk to them. Or you might lose them forever. Because sometimes that's what happens. You lose them forever because when you deal with grief, you go on to another level. And so, one of the things is you don't put up with a lot of stuff anymore. You're like, you know what? I'm done. If you was here supporting me, I'm here for you. But if you didn't support me, you might be, and so you have a different vision when you go through grief that a lot of people don't know about. And so, you're like, you're not even friends with her anymore. No. And, so you that's normal stuff, but you don't know that until after the fact, that you be like, dang, I lost a lot of friends. But no, sometimes God was showing you those weren't your friends anyway. They just hangongers, as they say. A friend they might step back, but they still sending you little notes. Hey, they might send you a little text. Hey, they might send you a little gift. They know that you right now, you can't say nothing to them, but they not gonna leave. They ain't gonna, as they say, get completely ghost. They might just step back a little bit because they know you need your little space a little bit. Because you do. You need space to think about it, to understand that, some people, my sister always say, I'm an orphan. I feel like I'm an orphan, and you're over 40 and you're like, I am an orphan. Wow. And just so many emotions that go through you, and you if you can be a good friend during this time, it's great. But don't feel bad if you can't, because most of the time, y'all, you thinking about is yourself. which is hard. And I found that out, that I was thinking about myself, and I had kids, and kids go through grief too. That's one thing that I heard from. I knew, but I was in myself, so I wasn't paying attention. And my son told me one day, broke my heart. He says that my kids call my mother Real. So he goes, you don't even miss Real. You're not crying. You're not talking about her. You're not doing anything. Well, I was trying to be the strong mama. Mm-hmm. I would sit in my car because I talked to my mother on the drive home. So on the drive home, I cried all the way home every day because I wasn't talking to my mother like I normally do. So I would sit in the car, I would compose myself, and then I would come in the house, and I was mama, strong mama. But I didn't realize that I was showing my children strong mama instead of grieving mama. And when he told me that, I was like, oh my God, I am doing that. I am, in his eyes, not missing my mother. He didn't see it reflected in me. And so that's when I start saying, you know what, I'm going to talk about my mom. We're going to talk about stories. We're going to, and so my kids, we talk about her like she's here. She's still here, but I had to face the facts that other people grieve too, LaShaunda. It just ain't about you. And so you have to remember that when you're dealing with grief too, that it's just not about you. So other people love them too,
Yeah, and I think that's you said that, because sometimes, let me adjust this volume for a second. Okay. It wants to cut up on a good conversation. I'm not letting it. All right, let's try that out.
Okay.
What we don't understand is that people need to also be okay with seeing us go through the process. And so what my son was essentially saying was, Mom, I know that you're trying to be strong for us, but I want to know it's okay for me to cry. I want to know it's okay for me to miss Real. And I think what you shared, LaShaunda, is what a lot of people go through. I remember losing a very close family member, and that was kind of the response. It was like, I've got to be strong. You can cry, but I have to be the strong one. And what we need to understand is that, tears are healthy. Tears are good. And we will have moments. And you mentioned that grief can sometimes happen in waves, which is very true. You don't just ride the wave when it happens. You can continue to ride the waves for, moments. You can watch Hallmark. I don't know about you, but sometimes watching those Hallmark shows.
The commercials.
And it's okay and it's healthy. It was really important that you said that. And I think that can help us all, is that, first of all, sometimes we're trying to mask that hurt. And I can totally relate to your story, because I'll have done the same thing where it's like, I don't want anybody to know I'm sad. So let me hook it on up real quick, pretend that I'm all right, keep smiling, but I'm really crushed on the inside. Be okay when you're not okay. But then at the same time, you're helping other people too, even in your grief. It doesn't feel like you're helping anyone in the process, but you're letting them know it's okay. It's okay to feel what you feel. It's okay to go through what you're going through. Doesn't make you a bad person because you cry. Doesn't make you a weak person, because sometimes when we're strong, as we perceive it, we're doing more injury to ourselves because we're trying to hold up this act that's really hard to follow, but we just break free, break loose, probably kick a few people in the knees, maybe punch some people in the face because we're holding on.
One person will set you off and that little facade cracks.
So,
right.
I think that was really good that you said that. That's really key. And you also said something too about what we say. And I'm glad you brought that up, because man, we have said some stupid stuff when it comes to grief. I've heard people say, you know, God needed a rose in the rose garden, and so he picked your relative. And I'm like, first of all, they weren't a rose, you know, like a flower, you know, so that doesn't make sense. I've heard people say they were tired and they went home. Now, they could have been physically tired by life, but at the same time, you know, that's kind of crazy, especially if it was a traumatic death. Okay, they were tired and went home. No, they were killed. Like, that's not going home. That's violent.
Right.
Or even, you know, just hiding it, suppressing it. We say foolish things, stupid things. And so we have to be careful about that. Because there's an important thing that you mentioned. So there's sometimes we don't know the right words to say, and that's going to happen. Even if we've gone through something similar, we can't say, I understand, because grief is individual. So, you know, there can be 1,000 of people who have gone through one level of grief, but we're not all going to face it the same way. So what would you say to someone who doesn't know what to say, but knows that they need to be there? Do you have to say something?
Sometimes I think you just need to be there. I have put my foot in my mouth so many times on saying the wrong thing. Sometimes you just say, I'm sorry and I love you. And that works for me, you know, and sometimes just giving them a hug. Like I said, if they want a hug, because everybody not a hugger, you know, and give them a hug and say, I'm here for you. You know, sometimes they just want you to sit there on the couch with them. You know, don't say anything. They just want you to sit on the couch. Or maybe they want you to say something funny. You know, maybe tell me a story. What's going on in your life? You know, take me out of my craziness. Show me that your life more crazy than mine. Because sometimes that happens. You be thinking you all in the dump, and then you go talk to somebody else. You be like, ooh, okay.
Right.
You know, so, you know, when it comes to, most of the times it's just being there, you know. Sometimes just being there for that person, just sitting there, you know. Take them some. Here's something that a lot of people don't think about when you're going through grief. The last thing you want to do is cook. Send somebody a gift card, a Pizza Hut, Domino's, something. I started doing that in my when I send a sympathy card. It sends something for a meal, because you're just in shock and you don't want to do anything. I spent a lot of money on fast food because I just didn't have the energy to cook, you know, and I know a lot of people feel that way. So, you know, think about that. Most of the time when people are going through grief, they don't have any money. Send a couple of dollars, you know, you're going to get some tears because they're going to be like, oh, I needed this, you know, but my mother taught me that one before she died. She used to send money in the car, and I'm like, why are you sending them money? And she's like, everybody need a little money. And that's true. You know, if you go to somebody, that was another thing she taught me, is when you went to somebody's house who you had a death and you went to their house, you go, you know, most people find out somebody died and then everybody come over the same day. Bring some chicken. We stop and get chicken. She would always say that, let's stop and get a couple of things of chicken, because people don't have time to make food. So go bring some chicken. You know, my friend at work, she goes, I bring chicken, I bring toilet paper. I said, toilet paper? She's like, you always need toilet paper. And so I was like, wow. And she's like, my mama taught me that too. You don't go over there empty handed. You go with something. If it's just some drinks, some sodas or something, take something with them, because the people are in there crying. They ain't got time to go to the grocery store, you know. And so, you know, and you know, death always hits when you at your last end. You be like, really, God, you know, I don't got a dime today. Really? is, oh my goodness, these people gonna be coming over here. I ain't got no food in this house. Oh Lord, what I'm gonna do? So my mother always say, bring a little meal. They'll be all right. They'll be happy. Or they can save it for later when they ready want something to eat,
That's good. And I'm going to pause, LaShaunda, real quick and just say hey to some people who have joined and been a part of the conversation. Hey, Sandy. Hey, Anthony. Good to see you, bro. Good to see you, Miss Teresa. Thank you guys for joining into the conversation. And so you actually answered one of Sandy's questions. So Sandy, thank you for, asking that question about some things people can say. And I really think that you really answered that well, is that sometimes nothing needs to be said at that point, because I've also heard some jacked up advice that I'm like, I really wish this person would hush, because it was all kinds of wrong. And I think too, we have to be careful, especially if the grief is very similar, of saying, well, when it was my relative, I did, well, it's not, it's not about you right now. It's about this family. And, I understand why people say it, because they don't know what to say. So they want you to feel like I can relate with you. But at the same time, again, it's not always necessary, because we don't want to relive your grief that you might have or have not dealt with. And I'm grieving, and now you want me to deal with yours too. You might get a throat punch because it's not the right time.
And you know what? It took me a couple of years to learn that after my mom died, that you don't share what you went through unless they ask. And they're like, LaShaunda, what did you do when your mom died? Don't go in there, yeah, when my mama died, I was like, oh, I was on the couch, I was this. Unless they ask you. Do not make it about you. Oh, it took me a minute to learn that one, because I thought you being sympathetic, telling them about what's going on with your grief, but that is not how grief works. I don't want to know about your grief. That's what they say. Unless a person asks you how you felt, I don't want to hear about how you felt, because it ain't your mama. This is my mom. And so it took me a minute to learn that one, but that was a lesson that I learned about grief, is that you don't share. I had one person was saying her mother was in the stages of about to die. And so people were, and I used to say that treasure the time with your parents. That was something I said. But she came back and she said that made her feel like her mother was about to die. She was gonna die, but she don't need to be told that she about to die. And I was like, why? I didn't even think that's what that I wasn't thinking that that's what that meant. I was just saying to appreciate, the time that you have with her. But she was saying, when you say that means it's going to be a little time. And she didn't like that. She listed like a whole bunch of stuff that she didn't like, that you found it you're helping. But for that person, it didn't feel helpful. It felt like you telling her that her mother's about to die next week, and this is all she got. When her mother was sick, but she wasn't about to die right then and there. And so you have to be real careful when you're trying to be helpful from your point of view. It's not about you. That's what I have to tell myself all the time. They didn't ask about LaShaunda. And so when they ask about LaShaunda, then share. But if they don't ask about LaShaunda, I'm sorry. Keep your mouth closed. Because you might be that one with the throat punch.
Pretty much.
You don't want to end your friendship because you said something stupid. And believe me, yeah.
That's good. And Latara said something very powerful that I listened to today. So thank you, Latara, for this wisdom. You mentioned it today too, so it was very befitting, about the difference between empathy and sympathy. Sympathy, we both broke down together. Mm-hmm. Empathy is, I understand, but I'm not taking away your moment. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so, Latara, thank you for sharing that. And LaShaunda, thank you for mentioning that, because I think that's really important too. Again, sometimes that person is grieving and there's a time to cry with people and it's appreciated. But if you didn't have that type of bond or relationship and you're just bursting out into tears, kind of like absorbing my moment and making it about you, that kind of can feel like, okay,
I got to come from you now. I can't come for you now. I'm still broke down. It's not about you. you have to remember that. I am a crier. And so if you crying, I'm gonna cry too. So that's it. I have to, you have to remember it's a moment for when you're supposed to cry and when you're not, and so be you have to be aware of that you're not taking it, making it about you, and they got to come and comfort you. Oh, I'm sorry I upset you. And you're like, oh, no.
That's good. That's good. And I think you have given us like a lot of good wisdom. And I just want to recap it because I don't want anyone to miss it. One of the things LaShaunda talked to us about starting with was the stages of grief. Knowing that you don't just get to go from dazed and confused in the process to recovered. It's a process. And like LaShaunda said, it does not happen that you go from 1 to 7. Sometimes you go 1, 1, 1, up, we went to 3, up, 2, 1, 1, 1. And I think that's healthy for us to know because I know from experience that you just want to get through it. It's like, it's going to hurt, it's going to be painful. You just want to tackle all 7 steps so you can, live your best life. But if you don't deal with the steps and heal, you're not really dealing with it. You're just making a mess of stuff. You're just not taking the healthy things that you need to do. So she said that to us, and that was powerful. She also mentioned to us needing to feel what you feel. And some of us are good at it. I'm one who's good at it. When I'm not okay, I'm like, oh, I'm okay. Like, I'm good. No, I'm not really good. Again, I want to throat punch somebody, maybe kick them in the knee. That's how I'm really feeling. But instead of saying that, I'm good, I'm okay. So being honest about how you feel, which was good wisdom. And then you reminded us to be careful what we say. I know Sandy over here was laughing at us, but people say, again, Sandy and anyone else joining, people say some really special things, and you're like, you didn't even have to say anything at all. Like, I just wish you didn't say nothing. So she mentioned to us just being careful of that and showing support. And then I think another powerful thing you mentioned, LaShaunda, is knowing that you need support. Grief is not something that you need to try to work through by yourself, because sometimes we won't deal with it, honestly. If we don't have someone to support us, we're going to work harder or take on more hours or take on more tasks, and we really need to focus on where we feel. But so I'm a workaholic, so like that's the way I cover is if I'm going through something, let me pick up another project, let me do another assignment, and I'm grieving. And I say to leaders and just to people who work with other people, when you notice people doing that, don't take advantage of their grief. And say, okay, well, you're doing that, let me give you X, Y, and Z. That person is grieving, let them have their moments. Don't exploit them because you're like, oh, they're effective, they're getting work done, they're getting it in. No, they're grieving. Let them have a break. Stop signing them up for stuff, because we're hurting people, because that person's never going to admit that they're grieving, but you know it, and you're just like, yeah, so be careful about that. And letting people have their moment. I think that was a final thing that you mentioned that was really powerful, LaShaunda. Letting people have a moment. Again, not saying, get over it, or it's been 3 years. And I said that as a little kid, okay, well, the time of grief is up. So where are we at in this? Until, like you said, you're in that moment and you're facing it. And it's not a quick grief, move on. It's, I'm really processing this. This is a change. This is a life change. And you should not go through life changes quickly, because that's how things happen. You should take it as a process. So that was really powerful, LaShaunda, that you said that. I wanted to ask you, kind of as we wrap up, because I could talk to you all day, because you're just awesome. But what are some closing things you would like people to know, just if they're going through the process or if they're working with someone through the process? What are some wisdom we need to take away?
I'm going to give you my mother's wisdom that she used to tell us for years and years and years. And it didn't really hit us until she passed. And she said, just keep on living. And she used to say that to me and my sisters all the time. We used to get mad. We're like, Mama, what does that mean? But when she said that, when it came back to us later, we're like, just keep on living. And it just means to take it day by day. You gonna still live. So you're going to have issues. You're going to have problems. You're going to have more deaths in your family, because as you get older, you lose more members. But you can still live. You can still be okay. You can still move on. And those words resonated with me a lot, because like I said, I was a walking zombie for 3 years almost. And I didn't handle grief very well. I thought I was doing great. But when I started doing research on this stuff, I realized I had went into a depression. I had stopped working on. I talk about working on my dreams. That was in no. I wasn't writing. I wasn't reading. My mind wouldn't focus on a book, and I was a shell of LaShaunda. And I don't recommend that for anybody. And that's a lot of reasons why I talk about grief. And I continue to talk about grief, because somebody is going through it. Somebody is sitting on their couch watching TV every day, not feeling like fixing meals for their family, not feeling like talking to anybody. And you need to know, just keep on living. You're going to be all right. If right now, this is what you're supposed to feel like. You're supposed to be in pain. You're supposed to feel horrible. If you don't, then you might not care that much about that person, But when you're going through that I call it the wave, you're gonna go down deep. You're gonna go down deep into that water, and it feels like you're drowning. But if you know how to swim, if you don't know how to swim, I didn't know how to swim, so I know how to float. I know that if I just lay back, let God, He'll push me back up. And you have to know that it's a day by day thing. It's not gonna be over with. That's what I wanted. I really wanted it to be over with, done. Stop feeling like this. I didn't like feeling like this. I didn't like every other day I'm crying. I did not like that, because I'm not that person. I'm a happy going, yeah, get ready, let's do these things. And I wasn't that. I didn't feel that way. I had stopped dreaming. I stopped working on stuff. I had gave up hope. And my best advice is not to give up hope. It's still there. It's the person that you have lost is still in your heart. The memories are there. The things that they've taught you is there. They made you this strong person. You are strong. It's okay to cry. That's not being weak. That's not breaking your strongness. That means you love that person. Tears are tears of love. That's what that means. Love is all the tears that you have in you. And you think you gonna cry every little tear out. Believe me, 5 years later, there's some more coming. But there's hope. You have to remember that there's hope. Every day is a new day. And they left you here to enjoy your life, not to be sad, not to be up to think that you're not going to have a good life. They had their good life, and you're entitled to a good life. You don't feel guilty because you're having a good life and that person is not here. Don't feel like you don't deserve that. You deserve to have a wonderful life, and you deserve to have hope, and you deserve to get off the couch and go live your life.
That's good. And Cindy had a comment who was down here as well, and she was agreeing with you that there isn't a time to grieve. It can be an ongoing process, but as time, goes on, it gets better. It might lessen, but, you have to keep going. But at the same time, you can't blanket like, when grief waves happen, you've got to ride the wave instead of pretending like the wave is not coming at you.
Mm-hmm. You gotta hold on tight. That's when you hold on. I'm holding on tight. Just carry me through, please. And you have them days. Some days I am fine. I'm doing good. And the other day I thought about my sister and I started crying because I was like, I can't call her and talk to her today. I know for some reason I just wanted to call her and talk to her. And I was like, wow, and I hadn't had a day like that in a long time. But I was like, you know what? You miss her. And that's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. That's good. Well, LaShaunda, how can people get in touch with you? And let me say this too, because she did a series of blogs that you can check out on her website that really talked about grief, and it was done so well. And so I really encourage you guys to check it out. But LaShaunda, how can people get connected to you?
I'm up on my site, LaShaundaHoffman.com. You can find me there. You find out information about me. I am an author. I am a book publisher. I am a magazine publisher, and I am a book promoter. And that's what I do. I help, as I said earlier, help people become social butterflies. And that means I help you learn how to promote yourself, how to promote your books, or how to promote your business out there on the online. That's what I do. I'm an online girl. And I show you how to do that. I have a Facebook group called See You on the Net Promotion Training Group. You can get in that if you want to work with me that way. If you want to work with me one-on-one, I just started a membership program, the Social Butterfly Promotion membership, and I'm gonna put the links in the comments so you can see that, because trying to say it all here is just drive you crazy. But the membership is you can do it yourself, learn how to go in there and be a social butterfly. I have classes in there. I have different workshops that I've done. I have PDFs or workbooks that you can go in and learn at your own pace, or you can work with me in the mastermind, and we come and talk twice a month, and we learn about promotion that way, because everybody works at their own pace. Some people want to learn how to promote on their own, and some people want LaShaunda to tell me, take my hand, help me step by step, and so the Social Butterfly Promotion membership is all about that, getting yourself out there so you can be the best social butterfly you can be. I want to say thank you to Miss Ashley. She has been the best kindred spirit that you could ever have in your life. She pushes me when she probably don't even know she's pushing me. But every time I'm like in that little funk, I get a little message from her, and I'm like, okay, God, you knew, didn't you? And it Ashley my way, and so I'm very thankful for our friendship. And people always talk about that you can't meet great people online, but I have never met Ashley in person, but she is one of the people that I call a very good friend. And one day we're gonna meet and I get to hug her. But
We're gonna cry.
Yeah, we're gonna cry. So I'm thankful for her. I'm thankful for her doing this sister friend shows. I have been blessed by them because it's hard to be friends, especially when you're online. I don't do a lot of stuff offline because I'm working and trying to do other things and stuff. So when you can't talk to somebody online, you got some issues. And so it's Ashley is showing you how to talk to people offline, how to be friends with people, that it's okay to be friends with people. I think we have come to this world of women can't be friends, and we started it, so yes, we can. So I like that you give a voice to that we can be friends and how to be better friends. And I'm glad to be able to share my experience with grief. I never even thought about having a conversation about that, but thank you.
Welcome. Welcome. We're going to take one more comment because I want to acknowledge Miss Teresa. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And she was talking about her mom has been gone for 45 years, and she has moments of tears, but the memories are what really keep her going. And that's definitely what you shared as well. So if you are going through a season of grief, don't try to suppress like the person existed, because they did. Legacies live on. So I think one of the most healthy things that we can do is continue. There's traditions, and I know LaShaunda has some traditions. We might have to bring you back during the holidays. There's traditions that we can keep and we can pass down and we can share. Just because the person is gone physically does not mean that their story didn't exist. Like, they were here, but they're just not physically here. So don't stop sharing the stories. Don't stop laughing and remembering the good times. And so thank you, Miss Teresa, for sharing that with us. And LaShaunda, I'll just go ahead and put that out there that, I think especially during the holidays, I'll probably bring you back, because I think sometimes we don't know how to keep the traditions going in a healthy way. Now, again,
I think you also want to stop it. You want to stop. And we did. We stopped the first year. We didn't do our Christmas and stuff like that and Thanksgiving because we were grieving. And then the next year we were like, no, we're not doing that. But I want to say this is I think she said 44 years her mother's
45.
passed. 45 years. And that shows you that grief has no limit. A lot of people think that, okay, I'm going to be grieving for 1 or 2 years and then I'm done. No. To me, grief is forever. As long as you remember that person, there's going to be grief, and so you can't think when people say, oh girl, just get over it. Really? You don't get over it. You learn to deal with it. You learn to live with it. But she gonna stop thinking about her mom because it's 45 years later? No. That love is still there. So don't think that grief is over after 3 or 4 years or 5 years or 6 years. No.
Right. That's good. Well, LaShaunda, thank you for joining us tonight. And then everyone for joining us as well. This has been your sisterly chat. And we will be back in another week. I take a break, y'all, because like this gets heavy sometimes. So I take a break between, but I'm gonna have another special guest. And she's gonna talk about those who might have grief of a different sort. And we don't talk about widows. And she's coming to talk about that perspective, which I know is going to be again, talking about that talk. I'm sure people have said a whole lot of unfortunate, retarded things and special things. And so we're going to have that conversation, not this week, but the following week. So thank you guys for joining. LaShaunda, I love you. Thank you for joining me tonight.
Thank you. I love you too. See you later.
All right. Bye-bye.